Well, 49er fans, I know that we are still reeling after a major upset loss to the Minnesota Vikings. However, this week, behind enemy lines being a day early, coming after a Monday night football game might be the best things for our psyche. Let's just act like the last game didn't happen. We can move on. We got behind enemy lines a day early. Things are going to be fine. The Bengals are going to be a tough match. There's so much to discuss with this matchup. One of the ones that when the season started or the schedule came out, I looked so forward to. Now I don't know if I'm looking forward to it. This might be the first time all season I pick against the 49ers, but we got plenty to talk about, and we'll do it all next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And as I said, it's a behind the enemy lines a day early. And I got my guy, Jason. Jason is very well known in the Bengals community. He writes for Cincy Jungle, SB Nation Production. He has a 3 and Out podcast and Orange and Black Insiders, which is all Bengals. All 3 of those links are down in the description. Jason, thank you so much for joining me tonight to go behind enemy lines. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We got 2 teams here that need a win. So there's a lot to discuss when it comes to this game. I'm very excited about it. The first person that I want to discuss is Joe Burrow. So Joe Burrow started out, I mean, he had the record-breaking contract, deservedly so. And then things started out a little rough for him this season. He had the calf injury during the offseason. He came back maybe a little bit too early, was kind of gimping around. Things weren't looking good. For the second straight years, your Bengals start kind of behind the 8 ball. 0-2, things aren't looking the best. And then slowly but surely, Burrow starts to get healthy, starts to look good. Coming off of a bye week, do you think that we've got a 100% healthy Burrow? What should we expect from him?
I don't know. It's gonna be a short show, man. I have no idea. No, so Kevin and I on 3 and Out, we had both called for Joe Burrow to not start week 1.
Okay.
We wanted this team's too talented. You got Jamar Chase, you got T. Higgins, you got Tyler Boyd, arguably the best wide receiver trio in the league. You got, an offensive line they've sunk a lot of money into, bringing in Orlando Brown Jr. in the offseason. You got a good defense. And we thought the best thing would be Joe Burrow to come back when he's completely right. And the Bengals, they'll probably lose without Burrow, but the team's too talented to go 0-4, whatever it is, they didn't do that. They figured a 50% Burrow, whatever he was, is better than 100% of the next guy, which, I get the thinking. But yeah, for the second year in a row, it's 1-3 with an 0-2 start in the AFC North. And then for the second year in a row, they kind of turned things around. We said if they can get to 3-3 by the bye, then everything's okay. And that's what they did. They beat Arizona in Arizona, which it's Arizona. One of the everyone coming into the league, everyone was saying it's going to be one of the worst 2 teams in the league. And then, but they turn around and they beat a tough Seattle Seahawks team at home. And now, they got a week off. So he'll be better than he was. He's starting to move around in the pocket a little bit. That's something we saw in the last 2 games where he's able to slide. And, he has this uncanny knack for being able to sense pressure before a lot of other quarterbacks do. So he can step up or slide out, move around in the pocket. He's able to do that again. As far as 100%, I don't know. I mean, I think he's getting near, the upper 80s, 90%, which is better than whatever he was to start. But I'm excited. A week off, it's a big deal. It's a good thing. So I hope so. I'll just say I hope. That's a really long answer.
There you go.
To say I don't know.
Hey, I'm totally fine with it. Obviously, you don't want to speculate, but in hindsight, they started out 0-2 anyways. Maybe just sitting him for the 2 weeks might have been the best thing, and maybe he would have been 100% earlier. That Seattle win, I think, was a huge one.
Oh,
for the
I
Bengals.
agree.
So Seattle's a good team, man,
Yep.
and they're starting to really show out defensively. They're starting to put things together, and I think for the most part, it is a good roster. So to get that win going into a bye week, I think is big for the Bengals. But now they come out of the bye week and they play a 49ers football team on a short week. I mean, I think they kind of got the advantage going into this one. I know that it's a road game, but coming out of
Yeah.
a bye, that's that's a good spot to be. So let's talk about that O line for just a second, though, because you did touch on it.
Mhm.
Is that O line improved? Another guy that was brought in, who Lyle Collins was supposed to be the right tackle of the future. That never panned out. I don't even think he's still on a team. He
No,
got cut.
he was
Some
released, yeah.
Yeah, some injury issues with his back or what have you. But either way, I mean, is that O line actually improved in your opinion?
I think it is. So it's the same thing that happened last year is they brought in Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, and Leo Collins. Yeah, they brought those guys in last year. It's a lot of money to spend to completely revamp the offensive line. They drafted a guy to play left guard, and the only offensive lineman they were keeping was Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams
Mm,
struggled last year. They moved him to right tackle. They cut Lael Collins. They brought in Orlando Brown Jr., which might be the biggest free agent signing they've had in a long, long time.
yeah.
It is better, but for the second year in a row, the starting offensive line didn't take any snaps in the preseason. And just like last year, they kind of came out. They had in the first 2 weeks, they had in the first few weeks, week 1, they had Myles Garrett, who's just going crazy, which you guys saw that. So they had Myles Garrett in week 1, so they're starting to gel a little bit more now, but it also did not help them at all that Joe Burrow was playing with concrete shoes in the first couple weeks where he just could not move. It looked like Carson Palmer out there. Carson Palmer was terribly immobile. So, but I think that as they kind of get things, they're back there in the swing of things. They're back playing. I think that they'll come out. I'm hoping they'll come out and they'll look much better. So,
Yeah, most certainly. Now, you guys did pay Joe Burrow in the offseason, but another one that's looming is the Jamar Chase situation. Now, it's interesting because it's not just Chase. Like, you can't pay everybody. Eventually,
right.
somebody's got to go. So, do you, Chase is going to be there. Like, I can't see Chase going anywhere. But what do they miss out because of that? Is Higgins gone? Like, what is your gut feeling on the future of Chase and what that means maybe for roster construction down the stretch here?
Yeah. So with Chase, I think Chase and Justin Jefferson are probably 1 and 2 best 2 wide receivers in the league.
Yeah.
With his history with Burrow and with what they've been able to do and what Chase is on pace to do this year. I mean, it's crazy what he's being able to do. I think that Chase will get extended. They got 2 years. Next year he'll be eligible to be extended. I'm sure they'll exercise his 5th-year option. He's going to be one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. And I would have loved heading into the offseason, I would have said, maybe Burrow takes a team friendly deal. Nope, that didn't happen. So yeah, keeping Chase means that you sacrifice Higgins. And that's unfortunate, but there's not many teams that have 2 number 1 wide receivers, and it's a luxury while we have it. I'm hoping that they can use it to, help make, pay off big dividends or whatever this year. But yeah, my guess is that maybe Higgins is tagged, maybe, and if not, he walks. If they struggle, or if they lose this weekend, and I mean the trade deadlines, I don't know if they lose this weekend. I doubt they trade him because it's still pretty early. But yeah, I think that the idea is they're going to keep Chase, and that just means Higgins is probably gone. Boyd's gone. That's a done deal. So,
Yeah.
but my guess is that, and I think wide receiver, it's a easier position to replace than a lot of other ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that there's just a Higgins replacement sitting around somewhere, but if you have to choose between the two of them, you got to go with Chase. So
Yeah, tag and trade too. I mean, you can still
yeah,
tag T Higgins and trade him. That can always work out in your favor. The other thing too that I think a lot of people forget when you pay an elite quarterback. If you feel like you have an elite quarterback and they're young, then you have the luxury of kicking their money back and really freeing up a ton of cap space. You saw Cleveland do that this year with Deshaun Watson. Now, Deshaun Watson is not Deshaun Watson of old, but either way, because he has so much guaranteed money, they kick the can down the road. They free up $50 million in cap space just like that.
Right.
And that's something you can do with Burrow as well.
Sure.
It's something that you've seen the Chiefs do. It's something that you watched Tom Brady do his whole career. So there are ways to finagle it. If they really wanted to make it happen, maybe they could, they would have to take a hit somewhere eventually, but maybe they can keep those two together if they really feel like that's something they want to do. So we'll see what happens with them. But man, this is the first legit number one receiver that the 49ers are facing all year. And we'll see how it goes. It's not just Chase, it's Higgins as well. Higgins might be the second best receiver they've faced all year, but the secondary is in question right now in San Francisco. And now they've got two guys coming to town, really three, and Boyd. It's like, okay, we're going to figure out what you're made of, and we're going to figure it out real soon. So curious to see how this whole thing plays out. Brother Bob is a bit neutered right now in his comments. He doesn't even want to talk crap about the Bengals. He says, well, the Bengals, he's he's a little upset over the game yesterday. Frank Tom Ocean, member for 7 months, appreciate you. Says, love these shows during the week. Thank you both. Yeah, I mean, these are the best shows right here. Official B&A Music says he's always effing open. He is, man. He's getting right. There was a game that he had like 19 targets. 19 targets? Bro, some quarterbacks don't even throw the ball 19 times in a game. 19 targets is insane. And he was 15 open catches the whole time. The whole 15 time he was
catches
open.
Out of those 19 targets.
It's absolutely crazy. Matt says, with Bates gone, how's the secondary been? Oh, that's a really good question, actually. Yeah, how is the secondary been?
So first I want to say that I wish Jesse Bates the absolute best. I think everybody knew Bates was going to be gone. We had Burrow to pay. We have Chase to pay. They drafted Dax Hill. And he's been great. I think Bates has 3 interceptions and a pick 6, and he's like this. He's great.
He's one of the better safeties in the league. For sure.
Absolutely, for sure. Dax Hill, we went from the duo of Jesse Bates and Von Bell with a lot of experience. We traded that experience in and went for some athleticism. Dax Hill is a freak athlete, and they've used him all over the place. He's been very, very good. He's had a couple sacks. He's had an interception. He's had a couple tackles for loss. He's been really, really good, but they line him up everywhere. And then Nick Scott has kind of played in the box. He's been all over the place too. So it allows Lou Anarumo to do some things that he couldn't do with Bates and Bell. They played much more traditional, strong safety, free safety. And then he's rotating in Jordan Battle, who was drafted out of Alabama this year. So I'll say this. The secondary has been a pleasant surprise because it's been pretty good. But they are prone to some mistakes. So they are extremely athletic. They're able to do something. They're flying around the field. I watched Dax Hill just move all the way across the field to break up a pass that he shouldn't have been able to get to. However, there are a couple communication issues, things like that. Safety is kind of the quarterback of the defense. You see everything. And if the communication isn't really good, and we're talking about a rookie, Nick Scott started just 1 season for the Rams. So this is just really year 2 for him as a starting strong safety. Jordan Battle's a rookie. Dax Hill's not a rookie, but this is his first year starting. So it's good. It's an athletic secondary. Chidobe Awuzie is back, but you got DJ Turner, who's just a speed demon, he's been playing really well. Cam Taylor-Britt, I think, is going to have he's having a breakout season. He's going to be a really good, just big, aggressive defensive back. So I would say that it's more athletic. It's a more athletic secondary that's a little bit capable of doing more things. It's also inexperienced, and they struggle sometimes with communication. So it's, half dozen one way, 6 the other. It just kind of depends. I'm just rambling now. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard to kind of nail this down. It is. They've had some really good plays, and they've had a couple of really bad plays. So it just kind of depends on what happens.
Yeah, the secondary, the way I see it, especially at the corner position, is one of those where you do want youth. I mean, it is a young man's position. It really is. It's one where if you don't have youth there, you can get cooked. But then when it gets to the safety position, that's kind of where you want somebody that might be
Yeah.
a little bit longer in the tooth and is a veteran and can kind of man things and keep it together. So I understand it seems like the whole secondary is a little bit young, very athletic. So they're going to grow into something probably pretty dang good. But this year, in
Yeah.
doing so, they're going to have some ups and downs. I totally get where you're coming
Sure.
from. For sure.
The future of the position is really bright. I really do
Yeah.
think they're gonna have a really, really strong secondary for several years. It's just getting to that point. Getting to that point where the mental mistakes are gonna go away, and we're not there yet. So,
Yeah. Well, you got a good pass rush. So
yeah,
that's helpful.
they do. They do.
That's very helpful. Brother Bob says, my blood bleeds Niner red, but my mind tells me we will have issues. How can we be confident seeing our defense and Purdy throwing 2 picks in a comeback? I always like to ask this question too. What is what is your thoughts? Because there's really a mixed bag of thoughts when it comes to Brock Purdy, even
Mhm.
within our fan base.
Sure.
I'm kind of one of those guys that's more hesitant to like say he's our franchise quarterback. That pisses a lot of people off, but that's just where I'm at with it. What is like your thought looking across at the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy? Like what do you think of him? What do you make of him?
I so like you said before you kinda went live is a lot of people don't watch other teams, and, and
Yeah.
I write about football and stuff like that, but I don't have, like, the NFL Sunday ticket, so I get to watch the Niners when they're on TV in Cincinnati, and
Yeah.
they were on last night, and I was rooting for them like hell because I didn't want them to lose 2 games in a row before they came home.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but, I mean, you at this point, I it's really hard to say that he's not the guy.
Yeah.
I think that he is. He's gone out there. He's got an incredible team. He's
Yeah.
got CMC behind him. I know Debo's not healthy right now, but Brandon Ayuk has really come on strong. He's showing he's a true number one receiver. You got George Kittle, who's I mean you got Kelsey and Kittle, kind of 1 and 1A. So you got a great team. You got a good defense, but Purdy, he's the guy that kind of manages it. I don't want to call him a game manager because I think he's better than that. But if you have a guy that's not going to screw it up too bad for you, you know what I mean? That's all you really need. If you have a really
Yeah.
good team, I mean, look what the Bengals did with Andy Dalton. And I'm not saying that Andy Dalton and Brock Purdy are the same guy because some people would want to fight me for that. But Andy Dalton came to Cincinnati, and we all know who Andy Dalton is.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone knows who Andy. But the Bengals went to the playoffs 5 years in a row with Andy Dalton. They didn't win any of those games, but they won the division. You surround them with guys like AJ Green and guys like that he's going to be good. And I think Brock Purdy absolutely could be that guy. He may be better. He could be the next Tom Brady. In 20 years, everyone's going to be talking about like, oh my God, 31 teams passed on, Brock Purdy. But he seems really good. He seems really good. I'm excited for him. It's kind of a cool story. Um, I don't know. It's pretty neat. I don't see any reason to say he shouldn't be the franchise quarterback, but I don't know. I haven't watched him obviously like you guys do.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's just always good to get a pulse, because like I said, it is a mixed bag here. I know it's a mixed bag when I talk to other content creators that have been on there, like, no, I ain't it, and some are like, I really like them. It's just fun to see. And I think, even with a guy like Burrow, as great as he's been, and I don't think anybody would argue that he's not like a top 7-ish guy at the very, very worst. But there's, some mixed thoughts there. Like I'm a big Josh Allen guy and a
Yep.
lot of people are like big Burrow guys. So we always go back and forth. It's a fun little deal. But
Here's the thing
um,
with Burrow is Burrow's thing is he's just cool. He's cool. He's a
he
cool
is.
dude.
Yeah, he is.
The commercials leave something to be desired. I don't know if they're playing Burrow Kroger commercials. They're not good.
Yeah.
But he's just cool. And it's so weird being a Bengals fan and be like, oh my God, my team's cool. I'm a fan of the cool team. I see people
Yeah.
wearing the Bengals starter jacket that don't even live it. They don't even like Cincinnati. You know what I mean? So it's very different for us here to be one of the cool teams.
Yeah, most certainly. And he's done a hell of a job too. I mean, you can't knock anything that Burrow's done
No.
by any means. So Strawberry Rack says currently live in the Cincy area and went to a rival high school of Joe Burrow's. So I will always root for Joe, but not when he plays the Niners. Sorry. I don't think anybody would hold that against you.
No.
Brother Bob says not crowning BP early annoys idiots like BP. Yeah, I got you. Matt says, Brother Bob and I are going to. God, you guys, these are other content creators in the community. Gray Fox says, short week. Wilkes as a DC, 0 pass rush against an elite quarterback and the receivers. I don't see my Niners winning. Wow. 49ers 10, Bengals 42. Damn.
Yeah.
You are not confident at all in the Niners. That's crazy. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Zach Taylor. I mean, speaking of a mixed bag and thoughts, I mean, Bengals fans are all over the place with this guy. Some like him, some don't. Where do you fall on Zach Taylor? Do you think he's the guy to lead you guys to the promised land, or are you still kind of like holding your breath a little bit with him?
I do. I do. I think coaching in the NFL is more about managing personalities. You know what I mean? You can't. We've seen 1,000 college coaches that rule with an iron fist that come to the NFL and they're right back in college a year later. I think Zach Taylor, I think he manages those personalities really well. The locker room seems really close. Everyone seems, and that's a big deal. The play calling thing, a lot of people complain about the play calling. That's tough. He went to a Super Bowl. They went to the AFC Championship the next year, lost by 3 points to the eventual Super Bowl winners with a last second field goal. So it's not like they got blown out. You know what I mean? So I like him. I think he's a very good coach. I think that he's a good manager of all the people in the locker room, all the personalities. He keeps them close, keeps the wheels turning, keeps the machine running. I think sometimes he's too aggressive when he shouldn't be, and then sometimes he's not aggressive enough. He kind of gets those moments backwards sometimes, you know what I mean? But I mean, I remember when they first hired him, it was just everyone was, who the hell is Zach Taylor? It's awful. And I think it was right before they went to the Super Bowl. I was driving downtown Cincinnati, and someone had made this huge billboard apologizing to Zach Taylor for like booing him when he first got there and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think that he's earned at least 3 or 4 more years. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens with the rest of the season. But like one bad season wouldn't take away what he has done. So I like him. I mean, the Bengals are nothing if not loyal. They kept Marvin Lewis for like 500 years. So, I mean, so Zach Taylor in the short period of time he's been here has done more than Marvin Lewis did in his time. So we can assume that Zach Taylor will coach the Bengals until the end of time based on what he's done already.
So. Totally fair. Totally fair. Yeah, I think it really comes down to Burrow. Like Burrow's kind of calling the shots. He's the one with the contract. He's the one making the big money there. And if he likes Taylor, then Taylor's going to be around. And if there's an issue between he and Taylor, then Taylor won't be around. And it does seem, at least from afar, anyways, I get the feeling that their relationship is a pretty good one, pretty tight knit. So I wouldn't expect Taylor to go anywhere. But as a head coach and as a quarterback, you get all the when things are going good, everything's great, and you get all the praise. And then when they aren't going good, you get all the blame, and that's just kind of where it's at. So it doesn't surprise me that people are split on Zach Taylor. I think some of his situational football, at least in the past, has kind of come up in conversation. And nobody's perfect in those moments by any means. I don't know that he's a top 10 coach in the league, but does it really matter? Like, as long as you got Burrow and Burrow's happy, that's really what it comes down to. So,
and I think a lot of it is like just the right combination of coach personality and quarterback. The coach quarterback dynamic is such a big deal, especially when you have one of these rare franchise quarterbacks. They're rare. They're super rare. So if you get a chance to land one, but your coach doesn't work out with him, it just might not work well. You know what I mean? But if the quarterback gets along well with the coach, they mesh well together, sky's the limit. So we'll see what happens. We've had Burrow has yet to play any preseason. He's just never going to do it. Next year, his arm will fall off or something weird like that, and he'll come back in week 5. Eventually, maybe we'll hit the ground running in week 1, and then we'll see what they can do. So one day.
Yeah, most certainly. Can't get right says, what if Brock is the next Dak? First year Dak was 13-3. Then I think in 5 years we'll still be arguing about the quarterback position, just like Dallas Cowboy fans are.
Probably. I think Dak is more of a Cowboys issue than a Dak issue too. I mean, the Cowboys have mismanaged what's happened.
Yeah, so, I agree. No, I agree. I think, for me, my philosophy when it comes to quarterbacks, and it's hard because there's not many of these guys in a league. I mean, Max Max, there's 7 guys in a league that I think fit the criteria that I'm looking for when it comes to a quarterback. But reality is, I just think that teams can get into a really bad spot when they pay somebody next in line money that is not elite. You know,
Right.
and and
Oh, yeah.
and Kirk Cousins is somebody who played fantastic last night. I've been a Kirk Cousins apologist forever. I mean, I think he's been borderline top 10 for like 8 years now. I think people take what he's done in prime time and they turn that into whatever they want. But ultimately, Kirk Cousins has been a good quarterback for a long time. But Kirk Cousins is one of those guys that I also wouldn't have given big money to
Right.
because I don't believe that you're winning a Super Bowl with him unless everything around him is perfect. And
Right.
that's not easy to, that's nearly impossible to do when they're getting paid the big money. So Brock Purdy right now may end up being, borderline top 10 for his whole career, like Dak Prescott, like you talked about here.
Mhm.
And it's great until he needs to get paid. And then once he gets paid, like the window's basically closed. So to me, it's just one of those things that if you don't have a guy, you should always be searching for a guy. And paying big money to the Derek Carrs and the Jimmy Garoppolos and the Tannehills and the Cousins and the Dak Prescott's, like that's what gets you in trouble and make sure that you don't ever win a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
So
I totally agree. I mean, Burrow was worth it, I think, but like you said, maybe 7 guys
mhm.
are in that conversation where you're gonna
Yeah,
pay them a ton of money, and Burrow's in there. But while Brock Purdy is enjoying this,
absolutely.
last pick in the NFL draft, this is the time to strike. This is the time to do
Absolutely.
it. So far, I
Absolutely.
mean,
And
so
they
far they've
have.
done
They've
well.
struck
Yeah.
gold with Purdy.
Yep.
Regardless of like what your thoughts are long term of Purdy, he's way outplayed the contract. Like
Oh, for
he's
sure.
overshot
Yes.
expectations. The moment that he started and won a game, he already outdid anything that what the
Yep.
expectation was. So he's continue. I mean, for the most part, he's a couple down games, what have you. But when this team is healthy, we know that they can win with him and he can be a good player. And
Mm.
that's all they need right now to win a Super Bowl because the team is stacked. As
Yep.
long as everything's going great, they should be able to win. So it's just about getting healthy, and that's kind of where we're at. So Matt says Mixon is going to have a game. Ugh, our run D.
Hey,
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, Matt, I hope you're right because Mixon hasn't done much. I mean, he's average. The run game's been tough. It hasn't been good at all. They've averaged 3 point something yards per game. If the passing attack isn't going to work like it hasn't been, it'd be nice if the run game could do something. So if Mixon has a game, yay! But I don't know. We'll see.
Brother Bob and Matt going back and forth. They're plotting and scheming over there. I see what you guys are doing. Okay, the trade deadline is coming up, Jason, and I know
Mhm.
that here we're talking a lot about the different players that are available and who can the 49ers go get. And I think Cincinnati's one of these teams as well, especially Cincinnati, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Eagles, these teams that are perceived to be upper echelon. These are the teams that are going to most likely make some sort of splash play as this deadline happens. Are you expecting that the Bengals make a move here at the deadline? And if so, not necessarily a player, maybe you have a player in mind, and if you do, great, but a position in mind. What are your thoughts about the trade deadline coming up?
So realistically, no.
Okay.
They do things a certain way. The family, the Brown Blackburn family, they're not big into in season trades. It's just not something they've even when they've been buyers. It's just not
Mm.
something they do. They don't sell either. They just kind of Mike Brown famously said something, used the line, "We're not in the business of making other teams better." You know what I mean? That's their thought. Is we're going to keep our guys, we're going to keep our picks, and we're going to do our thing. Um, Now they should, in theory, be buyers, and if they are, what I would like to see them do is address the running back position and possibly the tight end position. As far as running back goes, it's not that Mixon isn't good. He's capable. He's still, if they were to go bring in a running back before the trade deadline, Mixon would still be the guy. But the issue is that Mixon's taking all the carries. I mean, the last 2 games, I think he had like 25 carries, 28 carries, and only one other running back had 1 carry. And that's just not sustainable. It's not working already. The run game isn't. But if they don't have someone else they can trust other than Mixon, he's going to be worn out by week 10 if
Mm.
he's lucky. You know what I mean? So Samaje Perine plays for Denver Broncos, played for the Bengals last year, left in free agency, went out there, said he wanted to be a bigger part of the offense, but he's being out carried by Jaleel McLaughlin and another running back that I Don't even know who it is. They're not using him. He's not expensive. You know what I mean? I mean, what's the point of the Broncos season? It's over. You know, send a late, fifth, sixth round, conditional sixth round pick, whatever. Bring him back. And then the other position was tight end because the last 2 years, Burrow had a great thing going with CJ Uzama. He signed a big deal with the Jets. Then he had a good thing going with Hayden Hurst, and he signed a big deal with the Carolina Panthers. And then it looks like, oh, Burrow's a tight end maker. You know what I mean? We're going to bring in Irv Smith Jr. He's going to do the same thing. Nope. Irv Smith Jr. has like 2 catches. He hasn't been able to get open. He's came in the season with durability issues, and he's already missed a couple games. And they have this great trio of wide receivers already, but T. Higgins hasn't looked quite himself. He's got this rib issue. You know what I mean? Tyler Boyd's going to be gone. T. Higgins might be gone. Why not bring in Kyle Pitts? Right? I know, man. Right?
Oh.
Why not bring in Kyle Pitts and maybe lower the blow of losing T. Higgins? Use him the right way. Don't leave him in Atlanta. Atlanta, they'll move on. He hasn't done anything for them. So
wow.
that's my idea. It's not going to happen.
I like it though. No, I like it. Kyle Pitts has been bantied around a little bit. I don't think it's impossible by any means that Pitts could get moved. That's an interesting one. I like it.
But think about a Bengals team that's offensively kicked it in the butt. And now they're moving. The defense is playing. And now you got to worry about T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and now you have Kyle Pitts in the mix too. I think that's terrifying. But like I said, the Bengals don't operate that way. It's not going to happen. If it happens, I'll get a face tattoo or something. If it happens, I'll get a face tattoo.
I love it, man. I love it. Okay, this part every week, and I say it every week, and I'm going to continue to say it every week. This little segment is my favorite segment every single week when we go behind enemy lines, because there's always gems of players on other teams that most people don't know about, players that are up and coming young players, players that may already be ascending that not a lot of people know around the league, or players that you hope will ascend and that you were big on coming out of the draft. Who is a player or two that we need to know about that likely we may not have even ever heard of on this roster that is making some things happen over there in Cincy?
Okay. So can I do one on offense and one on defense?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. The more the merrier.
So the defensive guy that nobody pays attention to is DJ Reader. DJ Reader is the best run-stopping nose tackle in the NFL, 100%. If it were up to me, I would let T. Higgins walk and do everything I could to keep DJ Reader in Cincinnati. And the reason is he's just so big. He's so strong. He's got a nose for the football. He shuts down the inside of the offense, or the inside of the defensive line. That's like his area. He takes up so many blockers, so much room. He's allowed Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt at linebacker to play just wide open all the time. They don't have to worry about a lot of blockers downfield. So he's the guy. I mean, when the Bengals beat the Titans in the playoffs, he almost single-handedly shut down Derrick Henry. I mean, he's been great. Absolutely great.
Started his career with the Texans, right?
Yep. Okay. And I mean, JJ Watt threw a fit when he left Houston and he came to Cincinnati. And then he got hurt. He tore his labrum, I think it was. He was out for the whole first season. Yeah. So his first real season with the Bengals was 2021. They got the Super Bowl. And he's just been lights out. He's been great. Every week. He's probably the most consistent defensive player on the team. And you just can't run inside very well at all against him. He's great. Offensively, it's a wide receiver. It's not Jamar Chase. It's not T. Higgins. And it's not Tyler Boyd. It's Trenton Irwin. Oh,
okay.
And Trent Irwin has – now, I don't know what offense we're going to see. So let me preface this by saying they might come out and be the Bengals that we thought they should be, with Burrow completely healthy, and then Higgins. And, Higgins could have – I'm not saying he's going to have 500 yards, but they could go off. I don't know. But if they don't, if Burrow and T. Higgins is not working and Boyd's having a hard time getting in, and Chase is the only guy that Burrow sees open, Trent Irwin has a knack. He's a slot guy. He had like 300 or 400 yards last year and a few touchdowns, but those all kind of came late in the season, and Burrow was really starting to trust him a little bit. They drafted Charlie Jones in this year to kind of replace, out of Purdue, he's a slot guy and he's going to replace Boyd. But Charlie Jones is hurt and Trent Irwin has stepped in. And last week, I think he had one catch, but the week before he had 8 or 9. And he just gets in these grooves when a team focuses so much on chase and T. He gets in these grooves where he's just able to find the open parts of his zone and just sit down, and Burrow just knows where he is. So he could do nothing, possibly. But it just seems when they need him to, he comes up with 8 or 9 catches and 110 yards and a touchdown. You know what I mean? He just
Is he one of like the smaller, like shiftier?
Yes, he's a
type
smaller,
Okay.
shifty guy. He's a punt returner. You know what I mean? And he's just
Yeah.
really, really good at just finding the soft spot of his own. And Burrow's really good at finding him. So it's fun to watch him play because he's not. When you watch him run, it's clear he's not the fastest guy. He's not not the strongest guy, but he just gets open. He just finds spots and he just knows how to sit down and where to sit down. It's fun to watch him play. Plus, he gets this. He's one of those guys that probably everyone said like, "Oh, you'll never make it in the NFL. You're too slow." And he has fun every time he catches. He's smiling. You know, and it's just fun to watch. Fun to watch because he seems like a cool guy.
I love it. I love getting those names, and
Yeah.
Reader's a guy that I'm very familiar with. But yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. Now, how old is you said Trenton Irwin, right?
Yeah, Trenton Irwin.
How old is he?
Yeah.
Roughly?
I can tell you here in a second. I'm not 100% sure. Trent Irwin is 27. He's
27,
out of Stanford. Yep, this is his 3rd season. Yeah, he's just a fun guy to watch. He's a fun guy to watch play. He's got long blonde hair. He kind of looks like, when you look at him, he looks a little bit like the late great drummer from the Foo Fighters. You know, he's got
really?
long blonde hair and a blonde beard
yeah.
and stuff. Yeah. It's fun to watch him play. He's just seems like an awesome guy. And like I said, they may not even need him, but it seems sometimes that when they do, he shows up. You know what I mean? It's cool. It's a cool story.
I love it. Matt says we will give you Cam Latu and a 3rd round pick for Lou Anarumo. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. Cam Latu is the tight end that we drafted in the 3rd round, and he is on IR for the season. Didn't even play a snap. So there we go.
I will defend the Bengals keeping Lou Dini forever. I mean, I'll do anything. I'll start like a fake Twitter account and start saying bad stuff about him so teams leave him alone or whatever. But yeah, it's crazy to me that he's still here in Cincinnati. I mean, he's been a premier, defensive coordinator in the league for the last couple of years. It's crazy that he's still here, but I'm happy about it. So I'm not complaining. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. On the bubble, yes, you can definitely speak your mind in here. So we kind of hinted at this to start the show, but the Bengals are 3-3. They're kind of ascending. The 49ers are 5-2, but they're on the decline a little bit. A couple losses in a row after starting out as hot as you could. Who in your mind do you think needs this game more? Like, who do you think should be the more desperate team going into this week, in your opinion?
So this is really tough, and it's one of the reasons I was rooting for the 49ers last night, is I didn't like the idea of them going on a 2-game win streak and then coming home and be like, all right, now we turn it around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then again, the Bengals have momentum and the Niners are losing momentum. I do think the Bengals need it more, partially because last week, I know they beat the Seahawks, but they didn't look good. The first 2 drives, the offense looked great. They went down the field. They scored 2 touchdowns right away. In the second touchdown pass, Joe Burrow was backpedaling and then threw this sidearm pass to a rookie wide receiver. It was awesome. He was like, oh, he's feeling it. He's back. And then they didn't do anything. They had one more scoring drive where they kicked a long field goal, and that was set up by an interception, and they gained 0 yards on that drive. 0 yards. So they won because their defense. I do think Cincinnati needs it more. They were on bye last week. Every single team in the division won this past weekend. That, just further kind of putting them in a little bit of a hole. They always say that we want to go to the playoffs, and the best way to ensure that happens, you got to win the division. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if the Niners drop this one, they're still sitting on top. You know what I mean? I mean, they got the Seahawks to contend with, but I think that even though they've lost 2 in a row, I think the Bengals need this one more.
Yeah, I think, as a 49er fan, it can certainly feel like the sky is falling, but I actually agree with you here. I think the Bengals certainly need it more. I mean, the whole division
Mhm.
is a dogfight over there right now. The AFC North is no joke. I mean, the Ravens are a good team. The Steelers are a pretty good team. The Browns
I know,
are coming on.
which I
And the
hate.
Bengals,
No.
yeah, I know, I bet you do. And the Bengals are also a good team, but there's a chance that maybe 2 teams make it out of there. I mean, technically 3 could make it out of there,
Mhm.
but that's not ideal. You don't wanna be the 3rd place team hoping for another team to lose on week
Right,
18 to make the playoffs. Like, that's not where
right.
you wanna be.
Uh,
Knowing that they already have 2 division losses also, by the
yep.
way, does not help the Bengals. The 49ers are undefeated in the division, so I tend to actually agree with you on this one. I think the Bengals should be the more desperate team.
Now, keep in mind they were in the same position. They were 0 and they were 1 and 3 and 0 and 2 in the division last year. They
Mhm,
turned around
mhm.
and came back and won. But like you said, I mean, the Browns are good, Steelers are good, Ravens are good. To give you an idea how tough this division is year in and year out, if the Bengals win the division this year, it would be the first time in AFC North history that a team won 3 years in a row. It's
Oh.
never happened before, which is wild. And another cool thing is the Browns have never won it, ever, because they're terrible. Yeah. I just wanna throw that out there. I hate the Browns. Sorry.
Never, ever,
Yeah.
ever won.
No.
Ever won. Matt says, "We were too cocky. These losses will help." Well, Matt, I would hope that you were right about that. The problem is that I thought that would be the case losing to the Browns, that would be enough to get things going in the right direction, and clearly I was wrong. So, I don't know what the hell's going on, but I do agree in this sense. I mean, if the 49ers lose, it certainly would feel like a crappy situation. You lose 3 in
Mhm.
a row, you go into your bye week, but you come out of the bye week relatively healthy. You have 2 games still against Seattle, so really you control your own destiny to win the division, and really you control your destiny to potentially be the number 1 seed,
Right.
even with 3 losses at this point, because you play the Eagles as well. So
Mhm.
really, the sky is not falling, although it wouldn't feel great going in with 3 straight losses. I don't wanna
Right.
know what that feels like. So for our sake, I hope the 49ers win, but I do think the Bengals certainly need this game more, for sure.
Yeah. I think they do. It's just they got too much ground to make up now, you know? And AFC, also, you gotta remember, you gotta think about the fact that AFC versus the AFC or versus the NFC when it comes to good, like, playoff teams, you know? AFC is loaded, absolutely loaded, and
Mm.
some teams haven't played as well as I thought they would. And there's been a couple NFC teams that are better than I thought they would be, but the AFC is gonna be a tougher conference to get out, especially if you're trying to get in the playoffs as a wild card team. It's gonna be tough. So, I
Yeah,
could
I
see
mean,
yeah, I could see a 13 win team in a wild card. You know what I
oof.
mean? So, which is brutal, absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I'm
So,
trying to think. I mean, the AFC North, we just talked through that. That's pretty stacked.
mhm,
AFC West, I mean, not really. They disappoint every year outside of Kansas City.
yeah. Then you
The
got
South is competitive, but everybody's kind of chasing Jacksonville. And then the
mhm,
East, the Jets falling off early with the Aaron Rodgers thing, but they're still remaining competitive. Obviously, you've got Miami, you've got Buffalo. Yeah, it could get interesting. I think 3 teams out of the North actually might make it. Now that the more
no,
that I kind of put some thought into it,
they
I think
could
it's
for
possible.
sure. They could for sure, but I think in order to get a playoff spot in the AFC, if you're not gonna win division, you're gonna have to win at least 12 games.
Yeah,
So,
I think the disappointing thing with the Bengals having 3 losses, if I was a Bengals fan, is that number 1 seed is so crucial.
oh, yeah.
So especially with a team like Kansas City, like, the Bengals got them. They got them the 1 year, and that was awesome, but they are so hard to beat,
Mhm.
especially if they have home field advantage. They're playing at Arrowhead. That is not an easy task at all.
No.
I'm not saying it's impossible, but you'd feel a lot better about it if you had the home game in that situation. And quite frankly, the Chiefs with their 1 loss, I mean, they're
Yeah.
back at it again, doing
Oh, yeah.
Chief things. I mean, they're probably going to be the number 1 seed again. So,
Probably, which is that's something I wanted the Bengals to avoid. I wanted that was goal obviously, the goal was Super Bowl,
for
but
sure.
what I wanted this year, I wanted the number 1 seed. So, I mean, the Bengals play the Chiefs. It's very possible the Chiefs drop 1, that maybe the Bengals went out. Who knows? Last year, they went on a crazy 10-game win streak.
Mhm.
once you take away the Buffalo thing, on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
They play the Bills, they play the Chiefs, they have a chance still. It's possible for them, but that's only if they're not losing on Sunday, the 49ers. You know what I mean? These games are in every game from here on out's a playoff game, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, trust me, the 49ers have not started out hot the last couple. This is the best start they've had in a while, but they started out, 2-4 and then 3-4 last year. And so they've been the team that had to go on these giant winning streaks to sneak into the playoffs. And, they keep making runs to the NFC Championship and falling short. And it's like, well, the number one seed is so important and crucial to the 49ers as well. So,
Yep.
I mean, for both of their sakes, just to get to the number one seed, like this game is very important and both teams do need it. I don't think it's a situation that coming into the season that Bengals or 49er fans saw coming or would feel good about if we said, 5 weeks ago that this was going to be the scenario. I don't think that either of us would have liked it. But here we are. We've talked a lot about the game. We've talked a lot about the Bengals. What's your score prediction for this weekend?
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. I don't know. So, it's for good teams to lose 3 weeks in a row. It's tough. That's a tough thing for a good team to do. It's also tough to go out on the West Coast and beat a playoff team. You know what I mean? One of the best teams, and even though they lost 2 weeks, they're one of the best teams in the NFC. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. I think a lot of it depends on if Trent Williams plays or not. What's going on with that? I know he didn't play last night. If he's not in, and you have some backup left tackle going up against Trey Hendrickson, who's playing like NFL defensive end player of the year caliber right now, then I think Brock Purdy's in for a long day. But Trent Williams is one of the best left tackles in the league. If he's playing and he's relatively close to 100%, that's going to be a great matchup there. I think
Debo, I'll say this. Debo for sure is not going to play.
Right.
Debo is out. Trent Williams, I think it's probably going to be a game time decision. I think he'll probably be – last week he was doubtful. I would imagine he's questionable, and then he'll test it on game day, and maybe he'll go and maybe he won't. Like, that's probably what's going to happen this week.
Okay. So I think that this is going to be a close, borderline, almost ugly game. You know what I mean? Man.
How's your kicker? Serious question.
Oh, he's good. Evan McPherson, he's money. Money McPherson, man. I'm gonna say Bengals win, but it's like 24-20, 24-20. Like a tough, close game. You know what I mean? So I say Bengals win 24-20, and then the Niners go into the bye and come out lights out. You know what I mean?
Man, they got Jacksonville straight out the chute, so hopefully that's the case.
That's another thing. Yeah. So I say Bengals win 24-20. I think that the bye week, Joe Burrow comes out right. I don't think it's going to be perfect yet. I don't think he's going to be meshed with T. Higgins quite yet, but I can see Chase having a big game. But I say 24-20 Bengals.
Man. Well, Randall, I'm so confused because first you said you were from the future and you know what the score is, but now Trent told you he's playing. Wouldn't you know that Trent played in the game if you were in the future? I'm not. Something tells me that something's up there, Randall. Like, I'm not buying it. I don't know why that I'm not buying it, but I do appreciate it. Golly, man. I haven't picked against the Niners all year. And I'll tell you what, man, like before they lost, I was like, I'm not picking against the Niners until they lose. Like, I just can't do it. They were looking so good. They steamrolled Dallas the way they did. It seemed like things were lining up. Some of the teams they were playing coming up in the Browns and the Vikings, they had a ton of injuries. Like, things were lining up for the San Francisco 49ers. And I was like, this is it. The Bengals weren't looking too good. And I'll tell you, I'm going to tell you this too. Before the season started, my Super Bowl prediction was the Bengals, 49ers in the Super Bowl, and I actually had the Bengals winning the Super Bowl. That was my preseason prediction, believe it or not.
Nice.
I did, however, have the 49ers winning this game And
Okay.
at this point in the season, before the season started, I did have the 49ers at 5-2 going into this game with losses to the Cowboys and losses to the Browns. I got one of those right.
Yep.
Although when it came down to it, I didn't predict either of those to be losses because I thought the 49ers would get it done. My head says to pick against the 49ers here. It really does, but I'm not going to do it, man. I can't
Hey.
bail yet. I can't do it, man. I'm going to go 24-23. 49ers win on a Jake Moody field goal. Believe it or not, Jake Moody has struggled. That's why I asked how good your kicker is. But
All
Brock Purdy, for the third week in a row, is going to be put in a situation where he has to come from behind to get it done. This time he's at home. They just need a field goal. He puts him in field goal range, and Jake Moody hits the game-winning kick, 24-23 Niners. I can't pick against him. Not yet.
Hey, I respect it, man. I respect it. Like I said, my head was saying, pick the Niners. You don't know what Joe Burrow you're going to get. The Niners are a good team. They're mad right now. They probably had some sort of crazy players only meeting where maybe a locker got broken or the door got ripped off the locker, something awesome. You know what I mean? And they're going to come out. They're going to be pissed. And Joe Burrow's just not going to be ready, you know. But my heart said, no, man, you're a Bengals fan. Do it.
Yeah.
It's
so because literally our heads are saying, no, go for the other team, but we're both picking our own team to win. That's crazy, man. Well,
maybe they'll tie. Maybe they'll tie and we'll both be right. Yeah.
There we go. I think that's the only right answer. Actually, we're going to tie. That's what's going to happen. I love it. Jason, my man, thank you so much for joining me, man, making this thing happen.
Absolutely.
Shout out to your daughter. Hopefully everything's good there. I know that she's a little bit under the weather, man. So
she's good.
I appreciate you. Link is in the description for all of Jason's doings. He's got the Orange and Black Insider YouTube channel he's a part of. He's got his own channel, the 3 and Out. It's a podcast he's got going over there. And then he writes for the Cincy Jungle, which is partnered with SB Nation. He's doing big things over there. Jason, like I said, thank you so much. Let me get to these last super chats and then we'll get us out of here.
Sounds good.
Keith says, now I'm not picking us again until we win. That's fair. I got to be honest with you, Keith. Last night I said it. I said it again today. I said I'm not picking the 49ers. This, spoiler alert, this will be the first week that I pick against them. I can't do it, man. I can't do it. Brother Bob says, okay. See, I heard enough. Niners 31, Bengals 24. See what we did? We're fostering good energy. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you to Jason. Everybody have a blessed night.